Why, hello there, everyone. Woo boy, was it quite a crazy day today. Now, when it started, it was, I believe, 8 o'clock in the morning, and my mom, I forget exactly what she was doing in the morning, but she asked me to go and clean up our cat Avery's barf that was in the den. So he threw up on the uh, chair, the pillow, and the floor. And I accidentally stepped in it. So that was pretty gross. So I got out some Lysol and some paper towels and a bit of water, and I just scrubbed until I couldn't see it anymore. So that was a pretty gross way to start the day. Afterwards, it was time for some tasty cream of wheat, courtesy of my mom. This cream of wheat was quite good, I would say. I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. A little too runny, um, and not enough chewable lumps, so that's what bumped it down to an 8. But the butteriness in the milk definitely helped make up for it. After that experience, it was then time to clean some of the dishes. So I listened to an hour and 22-minute podcast where this neuroscientist lady was being interviewed. I forget her name, but it was apparently about manifestation destiny, or where, like, if you set your mind on a goal, no matter what, in what aspect or point of your life you're in, you will achieve that goal because you have trained your brain to seek that goal out. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It was pretty interesting listening to that podcast. It had quite a lot of interesting insights. I guess one of the most important key takeaways from that podcast was that you should never dwell too much in the negative. And in this era where we're constantly bombarded with lousy news and crazy headlines and doom scrolling in our phones, it the neuroscientists recommended it would be a much better idea to just have a digital detox, even for as much as 24 hours is what they recommended. Because it's sort of like giving your mind, like putting your mind on a diet of no phone and just kind of accepting reality as it is. And I think that's a very valuable thing to consider, because I feel like, personally, I'm speaking for myself, I spend way too much time on my phone and not enough time doing actually fulfilling, meaningful, and substantial work in my life. And this has kind of been eating away at me, if I'm being honest. And I mean, I'm 26, and a lot of people say, "Ooh, that's young," but I'm young, but I'm not that young. I'm halfway there to 30, and wouldn't really say I've done anything that would be like something I could look back on and say, "Wow, I did that. That's awesome." Um, the only thing I guess I could really say is that I've been keeping up with these update videos every single day since the beginning of this year, but that's about it. Everything other aspect of my life is in like complete like neglect and no action, because I spend most of my day just scrolling on my phone at random things that interest me, like UFOs and people being interviewed about paranormal events and things like that. And I mean that's fun, but if it's the only thing you're training your brain on, it's gonna get old and boring really fast, because you don't really have any skills that you're working towards, and that's what I need to really work on. Like I can't really put anything on a resume right now other than courtesy clerk. So that's definitely something I must consider. That's why I was interested in this Manifestation Destiny podcast. It really was uh, quite an eye opener, I would say. But another thing that was an eye opener was the video that came up afterwards, which was this guy who basically talked about how we are not our thoughts, and instead we are completely separate from like negative thoughts and positive thoughts, and how we're like we have to just choose one path and then go down that path. It, think of it like a bridge. A bridge doesn't have multiple different paths that you can go on. It only has one straight path, and you can either go forward through to the other end of the bridge, or you can just go backward and stay where you're at. And you just need to pick that bridge and go down it and see where it leads. And right now, I'm really running on just like fear, anxiety, not knowing what the future holds, and just being complacent, which I gotta be honest, isn't a really fulfilling thing to really champion. But, anyways, as I was listening to this podcast, I was cleaning the dishes. I didn't clean all of them, just some because I was running late, or not late, but I was on a time limit, and I wanted time to get dressed and finish watching this Red Letter Media video about um, the rise of artificial intelligence and AI videos. Um, and it was quite an interesting uh, discussion, I would say. It was basically Mike Silklasa and Jay Bauman, the two hosts of the show, in what they call the Black Void, where they talk about stuff in a black, dark room. And they were basically talking about how there's a bunch of fake movie trailers that have really terrible, like AI generated nonsense in there to trick people who are none the wiser that, ooh, this is real, so we can quickly get millions of views, make a quick buck, claim it's under fair use, and run away with cash. And we can just pump out the slop as quickly as humanly possible. And that's pretty much what's been going on with a lot of these AI trailers. It's quite sad, honestly. But they basically talked about how that at this rate, it feels like if these big executive CEOs want to save a buck, then they probably would switch to AI development pipelines over human driven pipelines. And I think that would be a really sad future, but in all honesty, I mean most entertainment nowadays already feels like it was made by an AI. The only good stuff is stuff made by independent studios now, where they let the artist just do whatever they want and don't interfere too much with it. So yeah, that was pretty much what that was about. Afterwards, it was time to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a coffee. And the reason why was because the cream of wheat I ate around 8:30. I go to work at like 12, and it had been like 3.5 hours since I last ate, and the cream of wheat didn't really fill me up that much, so I wanted something that was more filling. So I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Afterwards, I drove to work, and when I arrived, I was very positive and very, I guess you could say, animated. Really just prancing around over and punching in and greeting everyone I could and doing my little celebratory kind of like, you know, thing. Um, yeah, it was pretty good. The day started off with lot and not much to say other than good lot. I passed carts down to people who needed them, who were walking up to the store anyways. Um, and I just was absorbed in the moment. Afterwards, it was then time to go and bag for 2 hours. Well, with the first hour being with one of the longest running cashiers in the store. Um, we were having a conversation about how there was apparently a lady who had a seizure in the water aisle and how the cashier could not see her face but he saw her body like jolting uncontrollably, and then like when the paramedics arrived they told her to like breathe really deeply to get oxygen into her body. um Yeah, and apparently once she did that, she was like crying, and she apparently like landed on the floor pretty bad. Yeah, it sounded like a really serious problem. I hope she's okay. And then we talked about how what uh the my cashier coworker friend is going to do after he retires, and I said, well, I imagine you'd probably like step out of the store. I mean, you told me when you're in these four walls, you're restricted on what you can do, but when you're out of these four walls, you can do whatever you want. And then I said, well, I imagine since you seem like you're such a party animal, you'd probably like walk out of the store and take off your shirt and you know, move it in the air and go woohoo. But his answer to my thought was quite surprising. He said he would probably get really emotional because there's lots of um, people, customers who know this man, and they would feel like something was missing from the store once he was retired because they always come in and expect to see him in there all the time. And I thought that was quite an interesting thing. And he even started getting pretty emotional about it too. Like almost started to tear up. I was surprised. Um, but yeah, I guess it just goes to show once you've worked somewhere long enough and built strong acquaintances with people over time, those emotional bonds are so strong that it will definitely be felt once someone has gone on from the store. Very interesting. And speaking of interesting, there was apparently a lady who was in the store, and the cashier friend told me that apparently her husband was not able to come due to medical issues. And she was telling us that he just did not have the best diet and that it gave him great struggles to that ultimately led to him being incapacitated. And so now she tries to eat more healthy food and get him to eat more healthy food. So, yeah, that was quite interesting. Um, I will say that much about that. I even helped her out with her groceries. But anyways, um, afterwards we were it was time for my first break, and during my first break I had a breathwork session, and it was pretty good. Felt nice, relaxed, and in tune with the moment. After that, it was then time to do another hour of bagging. And here's one of the strangest things about today: there was only two courtesy clerks who were available throughout the entire day, and the day was the busiest day of the month, which was quite interesting because I thought all the big holidays had already passed, but apparently not. Or maybe everyone's graduation was happening and people were like stocking up on things for the graduation, which is entirely possible. But I just thought, dang, that's interesting. Very interesting. Well, anyways, it was a lot of work. Um, Having to jump between three different check stands, bagging. It was crazy. But then the next hour rolls up and it's time to do lot. And I will say one of the things I noticed was that the day was just moving by really fast because I was always preoccupied having to mend to multiple different check stands. Um, I mean, I don't mind the work. I think it's fine personally, but it is really interesting just like being put through your paces like that with limited, help. I had a 12 to 9 shift, by the way, today. But anyways, oh yeah, and early in the morning I did write in my journal, my planning journal. Just a little suggestion. I'm not going to get deeper into that. Other than that, I looked up 10 good habits to do every morning to follow to make sure that we get a good start to the day. All right. So, moving on, it was lunchtime. I drove home, and our family friend had already made a really tasty beef stew with Mexican rice. It was really moist, really flavorful, really tender meat. It was a really good lunch. I really enjoyed it. And normally, like I like having a dessert afterwards. So I had honey granola with almonds and in milk and coffee. Although I gotta be honest, maybe it wasn't a good idea to eat all that, because I felt super full, super stuffed afterwards. And not gonna lie, I needed to go to the restroom afterwards. That's how full I was. Anyways, I drove back to work, and it was the most insane last 4 hours you could possibly imagine. Just having to jump from check stand to check stand, and then I have a 9 o'clock, and of course, I am a co-closer. All people who need to close the store are given closing duties to do. Mine was to take out all the trash in the store and refill the cleaners and paper towels. And so that's what I did. But boy, oh boy, was it crazy having to not only juggle that, but juggle doing lot, and then at one point juggling sweep and lot because the only other courtesy clerk in the store needed to go on their lunch break. So it was just jumping here, jumping there, jumping everywhere. It was bananas. Um, Afterwards, I said goodnight to one of the greatest key carrier managers of all time, and I told him, I hope you dream an amazing dream tonight. It was pretty cool. I feel like he's like capable of telepathic communication, not gonna lie. He definitely has that rap god like aura about him that feels otherworldly and quite fantastical. And that's something I deeply appreciate about this individual. Well, I drove home And when I got back, I brought up the trash cans. I Because tomorrow's street sweeping day. And then I took my vitamins, I brushed my teeth, and then I took a shower because I hadn't taken a shower in like 3 days. I know, disgusting. So I took a shower, and now I'm as fresh as can be. I said goodnight to my mom, our family friend, and one of our cats. That one cat was Avery. And now I am recording this video. And that is the day in a nutshell, essentially. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.